Hello and what is going on, gamers? Hope you're all doing well. It's Scape here, and today I have an updated guide to show you guys how to get 45 to 47 kills at Gregorovich completely AFK. This is currently the best way to AFK Gregorovich in the game, even better than melee, so I definitely recommend this out there to anyone that has the requirements. Before I even get into the method, I cannot take any credit for this whatsoever. All of the credit needs to go to someone on Discord called Friggity Frank. He goes by Frank's Mad in Runescape. This guide wouldn't be possible without him. He spent a lot of time coming up with every single thing that you need to know and need to do this method, so all of the credit goes to him. For you guys that want to read this guide in complete text format, that will be in the description down below. And also, if you haven't already, join the PVME Discord so that you can see guides to do every single boss in the game in the most optimal way possible. There's a ton of people over there that put a ton of effort and time into showing you guys how to get better at PVM, showing you DPS advice for every combat style. So if you haven't seen this already, go check out the PVME Discord in the link down below. If you guys haven't already, you can join my community Discord in the comment section down below, and also you can follow me over on Twitch for when we start streaming over there. Feel free to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future guides or content that we have to bring to you guys. And now let's take a look at the requirements for this method. So the first requirement that you're going to need for this method is 95 or 99 prayer. The reason for this is you need soul split and anguish at least as a bare minimum in order to do this method. If you have Desolation, the tier 99 prayer that's unlocked by using Appraisal Codex, it will be even better and you'll be able to hit higher kills an hour. 73 summoning alongside unlocking ancient summoning is an absolute must-have for doing this method. This is what allows you to hit them high kills an hour. We'll talk about that later on in the video. In short, you're going to need this level and ancient summoning in order to use the Blood Reaver familiar, and it is very important for this method. So the next requirement is a steep one, and it is going to prevent a lot of players from being able to actually do this method. You do need Greater Ricochet unlocked. It's one of your strongest range abilities, and because we're using Revolution, it's extremely important. Alongside this, we're primarily focusing on maximizing the amount of weapon poison damage that we can do to the boss, and Greater Ricochet is important in doing so. This is how you're able to obtain 45 to 47 kills an hour doing this method. For those of you out there that haven't already got this upgrade on your account, I'd heavily recommend going and checking out one of the melee guides on YouTube. If not, Frank, the guy that made this guide, actually has a guide using the Lanakaya's spear that can get you 40 to 42 kills an hour AFK using melee. It has a cheaper startup cost, but please be aware that you're going to make significantly less profit an hour, and you also have higher running costs for doing the method, as you are going to be needing to use a Vamp Scrimshaw. And finally, the last requirement that you're going to need for this method is unlocking the Salt in the Wound ability. You can unlock this by doing the Shattered Worlds minigame, and this will cost you 63 million Shattered Anima. Next, let's take a look at the gear setup and loader that is recommended to do this method. First up, you're going to want your best overloads. Obviously, Elder Overloads are going to be the best. They're going to make you have the most damage reduction and enable you to do the most damage output. Weapon Poison plus is also a must-have. The method pretty much depends on it, so stacking this with Cinderbane gloves and a few other items is essential for this method. In a similar vein, Qualm Incense Sticks are a must-have because you can use them to actually increase the damage potency of your weapon poison, so you're going to want to make sure you bring them as well. Irrit Incense Sticks can also be useful, however I'd only recommend using these if you don't have the Venom Blood perk. For this method specifically, I'd recommend using the Venom Blood perk as it will save you money over time while you're AFKing, and we'll cover the perks that are recommended for the method later on in the video. As we are focusing on maximizing our weapon poison output, a Blood Reaver familiar is insanely important here. As previously mentioned, you're going to need 75 summoning in order to use this, and you need ancient summoning unlocked. Blood Reaver familiar deals 25% of the player's healing as damage to its target. This includes healing from all sources. The important thing about the Blood Reaver is that its passive actually synergizes very well with the Cinderbane gloves. So any healing that you actually get from using Soul Split or the Vampirism Aura will actually be able to apply the weapon poison damage from Cinderbane gloves and weapon poison. So it's extremely important to have when doing this method. The next item that I'd recommend having is a Spring Cleaner. Gregorovich can drop a ton of salvage, and this will help clean up the loot and automatically out them for you. An Enhanced Excalibur can also be very useful just to get some additional heals. As we're using a Blood Reaver, whenever you use the Enhanced Excalibur, any heals that you actually get from this can apply damage to the boss via weapon poison. Alongside this, an Ancient Elven Ritual Shard's also pretty useful to sustain your prayer points if you're not using a Penance Aura. And finally, to make this method really AFK, you can make yourself some potion reservoirs. For those of you unaware what potion reservoirs do, you can make them using invention, and basically you can put one of your overloads or any other potion in there, and as soon as your potion runs out, it will automatically drink the potion, making it even more AFK. Next up, let's actually take a look at the weapons and armor that I'd recommend using for this method. So the best weapon that you can actually use for this method is a Wyvern crossbow. The reason that the Wyvern crossbow is the most effective weapon for this method is simply due to its passive to apply poison damage onto the opponent, which gradually stacks up over time. The armor recommended for this is Serenic. I have done some testing with tier 80 armor, and you simply don't have enough defense to sustain this and be AFK, and you will need to eat food. So as a minimum, you're going to want to make sure you have some Serenic armor. A lot of you guys may think that it's ridiculously expensive. It's just over 40 mil at the moment, and it's well worth using for this method. An Illuminated Book of Balance is one of the best pocket slot items that you can actually use for this method. The reason that this is so strong is because when it procs, it actually deals 5 hit splats onto the opponent. And these 5 hit splats all have a chance to apply weapon poison, making it ridiculously strong at Gregorovich using this method. So you're going to want to make sure you use an Essence of Finality when doing this method. You don't use this for the special attack weapon stored inside. You actually use it for the 3% increased hit chance that it gives you onto the boss, and it also makes it so that your soul split heals you more on average, making it easier to sustain yourself. The best in slot ring that you can use here is a Reaver's Ring. This will make it so that you lose 5% accuracy but gain a 5% critical hit chance, and this is going to be your best in slot ring when doing this method. If you don't have this, you can use a Luck of the Dwarves, a Ring of Vigor, or an Asylum Surgeon's Ring, but just be noted that a Reaver's Ring is the best in slot. Of course, because we're focusing on weapon poison output, Cinderbanes are an absolute must-have for this method. Cinderbane gloves will basically make it so that your weapon poison is overall a lot more effective when killing any boss where it is susceptible. So you're going to want to make sure you have these for this method. The ranged boots ain't actually too important for this method. However, if you have the fleeting boots, whenever you use rapid fire, they will actually increase your hit chance by 10%. So this is why I personally am going to be using them. So it wouldn't be a guide without going over the optimal perk setup for the method. So let's take a look at that now. So the two must-have perks for this method are going to be Corroming and Venom Blood. Corroming 4 is going to increase the amount of damage that your Greater Ricochet can deal, and I'm assuming if you have Greater Ricochet unlocked, you already have this. The trouble is you're going to want to make sure you have it on your Wyvern crossbow as well. If you compare this with Equilibrium 2, you're overall going to be dealing more damage to Gregorovich. However, if not, Corroming 4 works fine. Precise 6 on your crossbow is also a great perk to have. This will increase the amount of damage that you can deal by 7.5%. If you're going for absolute best in slot, you're going to want Precise 6 paired with Aftershock 1. However, no worries if you don't have Aftershock 1. Precise 6 will work fine. In terms of your armor, the most important one that you can have to save money and also make this even more AFK is Venom Blood. This will make it so that all of the poison damage that you would take from Gregorovich can be completely negated, and it's relatively inexpensive to get. If you don't have Venom Blood, you can use Irrit Incense Sticks. However, I'd personally recommend grabbing yourself Venom Blood. It will save you money over time. And because you don't need Enhanced Devoted, as we're using Soul Split here, you're going to have a free perk slot anyways. Crackling 4, Relentless 5 is a great combo to use here. It will increase the overall amount of damage that you can use, and it will save you Adrenaline from your Threshold and Ultimate abilities. In a similar vein to Relentless, Impatient 4 will overall increase the amount of Adrenaline on average that you get from using basic abilities. So this is another must-have if you want to build up to your Ultimates and Thresholds even faster when doing this method. Biting 4 increases the amount of critical damage that you're able to deal to your opponent. So if you want a nice damage increase, you can get yourself Biting 4, and this will increase the overall amount of kills you can get an hour as well. There are also a ton of ways that you can actually combo your Venom Blood onto your gear. And on screen now, I'll show you the two combinations to pair Venom Blood with Impatient 4 or to pair Venom Blood with Biting 4. So in terms of other useful items for this method, as we've mentioned, Irrit Incense Sticks are useful if you don't have the Venom Blood perk. And Qualm Incense Sticks are very useful to increase the amount of weapon poison damage that you're able to deal to Gregorovich. In terms of auras, you can use Penance, Vampirism, or Dark Magic. You do not want to use Reckless here, as you will simply take too much damage and it is not going to be sustainable. If you use Penance, it's going to be extremely AFK, and literally all you will need to do is make sure you reuse your weapon poison and loot occasionally. You will not be able to loot from the same spot every single time, purely due to the fact that you're not going to be in melee distance of Gregorovich, so you will occasionally need to move to pick up your loot. If you are going to be using Vampirism, you are going to need super restores, and another downside of using Vampirism, the way that the Blood Reaver Familiar actually works is that it only deals damage if you're able to heal. So if you're full hit points, which you can occasionally be by using the Vampirism aura, all of your Soul Split and Vamp damage that you would get from your Blood Reaver will completely be nullified, and there will be none, which will overall decrease the amount of damage output that you're able to use. If both of these are on cooldown, you can use Dark Magic, that works fine, but similar to Vampirism, you will need to use Super Restores, and it will make it overall less AFK. In terms of your relic setup, you're going to want to use Persistent Rage. This is a must-have because you need to be able to maintain your Adrenaline in between kills. If you do not have persistent rage, you can use the adrenaline urn, which is obtained by killing Calgarian demons. However, if you use the adrenaline urn, you will occasionally need to adrenaline stall in order to last the full hour. Fury of the Small is also a great relic to use because it will increase the amount of adrenaline that you get for using basics by 1%. And alongside that, I personally used the Luck of the Dwarves relic. But if you don't want to use this, you can use Berserker's Fury, and this will increase the amount of damage output that you're able to deal. So on screen now is the Revolution plus bar that you're going to want to use for this method. Once again, completely full credit to Frank for coming up with this. It's pretty smart incorporating Sorting the Wound for a Revolution bar. I wouldn't have actually thought of this myself. Normally it's an ability that you would just push to the side and not use too often. If you have this Revolution bar and all of the other things I've mentioned in this video with a tier 99 prayer, you can consistently get 45 to 47 kills AFK while killing Gregorovich. We'll talk about the profits that you're able to make with that later on. The general consensus of this Revolution bar is prioritizing your dazing shot so that you're able to get your puncture stacks to make your Sorting the Wound threshold even more effective. And once again, huge shout out to Frank for coming up with this Revolution bar. It's very smart and it is really optimized for killing Gregorovich. There really isn't too much to the method itself, and pretty much all you need to do is stand to the northern part of the arena like I do, and you want to use Soul Split paired with your best offensive ranged prayer. And pretty much all you do is just stand here and AFK, letting Revolution do all of the work. If he's in melee distance, you will take more damage and you can move out of the way. However, from about 3 hours of testing, I've not had to actually do this once. As soon as he spawns, your auto retaliate straight onto him, so you want to make sure you have your auto retaliate on. And then as you can see now, like look how many weapon poison splats you actually deal when doing this method. The Blood Reaver paired with all of the other things really increase the amount of weapon poison damage that you're able to deal on this boss. And that's overall where most of the efficiency comes from in this method. There really is not too much to it. As I said, Frank's done pretty much all of the work. With the Revolution bar that he's come up with, you can just stand here and AFK and do your heart's content. As I said, I have tested this with tier 80 armor, and your health points just sit far too low to do this comfortably. You may have a bit more success if you use a Vampirism Aura. However, as I mentioned, that will be a lot less AFK. Occasionally, he will be out of range for you to be able to loot, as previously mentioned. So the only downside to this method is that you have to move every couple of kills to pick up a piece of loot. But in all honesty, it's a small price to pay for something that's so AFK like this. All of my testing I've done was using the Penance Aura, and not once did I need to use a Super Restore. So that is going to be the most AFK way that you can actually do this method. This is higher kills compared to the melee AFK setup, but it has a much higher startup cost. However, due to the fact that we're only going to be using Ascension Bolts and you don't need a Vampirism Scrimshaw, you are actually going to have lower costs per hour, which will overall increase the amount of profits that you're able to obtain. My book actually ran out of charges in this clip, but you want to make sure that you have your Illuminated Book of Balance active when doing this. As I previously mentioned, it does 5 hits, which all have a chance to apply weapon poison damage and will increase the amount of kills an hour that you're able to get, whilst being relatively inexpensive. If you have potion reservoirs, you definitely want to be using them here. It makes it overall a lot more AFK, and pretty much all you need to do is loot. Like, there's nothing more to it. This is it. Once again, huge shout out to Frank. In the description down below, as I mentioned, there's going to be a link to this range guide that he has in written format. Everything that you need to know to do the method is there. And also, I'm going to provide a link to his melee guide. There will also be a link for the PVME in the description down below. And on here, I'm not kidding you, if you want to improve at PVM, join the PVME Discord. It will show you optimal rotations that tons of people put time into for every single boss in the game. It will show you upgrade orders for each combat style. It will show you optimal DPM advice for magic, range and melee, along with a massive community there to answer any of your questions. So if you did want to join this, the link's in the description down below. It honestly is the best tool for anything PVM. It has a ton of Slayer information on there as well. Last thing before we end off the video, let's talk about the profits that you're going to be making an hour from doing this. If you get 45 kills an hour, in terms of drops with the double drop rate from having max rep at Gregorovich, you're going to be getting 19.1 million GP an hour in drops. And then towards the upper end of this, if you're able to get 47 kills an hour, you're going to be getting 20 million GP an hour AFK while killing Gregorovich. Like, this is a great method for anyone out there that's going for the log, the title, or even just the pet, or just even if you want to AFK while working, playing on another account, watching a film, whatever you want to do. This is a great method for you to do. If you don't have the requirements for this, check out the melee guide. There's tons of them on YouTube. If not, read Frank's guide in the PVME. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you found it useful, drop a like on the video, and remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future guides or content that we have coming out for you guys. Once again, cannot thank Frank enough for coming up with this method, and go check out the PVME if you haven't done already.